Hey guys, what's new?
Get it together.
It's Mrs. Klein.
And Mr. Creighton.
And we're here for your podcast for Chapter 13, Lesson 3, and it's entitled The Renaissance Spreads. Okay, in this lesson, you guys, we're going to learn about the spread of Renaissance ideas throughout all of Northern Europe. Okay, in the last lesson, we focused on what was happening in Italy, and now we're moving on to Northern Europe. As always, there are vocabulary terms that you're responsible for. The terms this time for this lesson are William Shakespeare, Elizabethan age, Johann Gutenberg, printing press, and vernacular. And don't forget, when you hear this sound, you know you've heard a vocabulary term.
Just a reminder, our big idea for this unit, knowledge and the spread of ideas are the driving force for cultural change. And our first essential question, what makes an idea everlasting?
Next essential question, how do ideas impact history?
Our third essential question, what types of economic and social conditions give rise to changes in society?
And last but not least, how do new ideas spread?
All right, guys, our first section from 13.3 is the Renaissance moves north. You can find this on pages 445 to 446. The question we want you guys to be thinking about, why did the Renaissance spread north? During the late 1400s, Renaissance ideas began to spread north from Italy to countries such as France, Germany, Spain, and England. There were several reasons why this occurred. One reason was the growth of cities across Northern Europe. These cities attracted many merchants, traders, and artists. These groups brought with them the ideas and styles of the Renaissance. The growth of cities also helped to create a wealthy merchant class in the north. These merchants supported numerous artists and writers and encouraged them to create.
The governments of Northern Europe also supported the arts. England and France were unified countries ruled by strong monarchs. Many of these rulers took an interest in the arts. As a result, they purchased many paintings. They also provided financial support to many artists and writers.
Interaction between Italian artists and those to the north also helped the Renaissance to spread. In the late 1400s, a war broke out between kingdoms in Italy. Because of this, many Italian artists fled to the safety of Northern Europe. There, they shared their new styles and techniques. Artists from Northern Europe also traveled to Italy and learned all they could. They then brought Renaissance ideas back to their homelands. The question you should be able to answer right now, how did European monarchs help encourage the Renaissance?
Okay, you guys, moving on to the next section, which you'll find on page 446. It's entitled Northern Artists and Writers. Be thinking about this question as you're listening along. How did the Northern and Italian Renaissance differ? Okay, the Northern Renaissance produced a second wave of talented painters, writers, and scholars. They made significant advances in the arts and learning. The Northern Renaissance and the Italian Renaissance differed in several ways. For one thing, Italian scholars valued classical learning. Northern European scholars did not value such learning as much. In addition, Northern European artists produced a much more realistic, detailed style.
One figure who stood out for his realistic and detailed works was the German artist Albert Dürer. Besides paintings, Dürer also created many woodcuts. Jan van Eyck and Peter Bruegel the Elder were two great Flemish painters. Flemish refers to someone who came from a region of northwest Europe called Flanders. Flanders is now in Belgium. Van Eyck's paintings contain tiny details and bright colors. The paintings of Peter Bruegel the Elder showed everyday scenes. These paintings also show many details.
Talented writers also helped to shape the Northern Renaissance. One of these writers was the Englishman William Shakespeare. Many consider him to be the greatest writer who ever lived. Shakespeare became one of the more popular playwrights in England. He wrote comedies, tragedies, and history plays.
Shakespeare wrote during a time in England known as the Elizabethan age. The period was named after Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled from 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth promoted the Renaissance spirit in England. The question you guys should be able to answer right now, who are some of the key figures of the Northern Renaissance?
Okay, moving on to the last section, advances in science and technology. We're going to start on page 448. Be thinking about this as you're listening today. How did the Renaissance affect areas outside the arts? Thinkers made advances in many fields during the Italian and Northern Renaissances. These fields included mathematics, science, and technology.
In mathematics, scholars advanced the study of algebra. Renaissance scientists developed new theories on the universe. Scholars made advances in anatomy, the study of the human body. They also made advances in cartography, or map making.
Renaissance Europe witnessed many technological advances as well. During the mid-1400s, a German named Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press. Printing press was a machine that pressed paper against a full tray of inked, movable type. The result was an identical copy of the page.
Printing press had a huge impact on European society. Before, printers had to spend months handwriting copies of books. Now, they could produce hundreds of books quickly. The increase of books encouraged more people to learn how to read. It also helped to spread Renaissance ideas more quickly than ever.
The printing press also encouraged more authors to write in the vernacular, or their native language. Before this, most authors wrote mainly in Latin. Latin was the language of ancient Rome and the well-educated. Now, many more people wanted to read. And as a result, authors wrote to people in their own language. One effect of this was the translation of the Bible into many different languages. Okay, can you answer this question, you guys? How did the printing press help to spread Renaissance ideas?
All right, just a reminder, you're going to have a vocab podcast quiz coming up pretty soon. A review of the terms: William Shakespeare, Elizabethan age, Johann Gutenberg, printing press, and vernacular. You stop that.
Don't stay up too late.